Hello there and a very good evening. This is Primetime News here on TV1 for the News First team. I am Jayama Ratnayaka. Today is the 24th of July 2023.
For the News First team, I am Peruni Karnaratna. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Attorney General informs the Supreme Court that a referendum is required to pass the private members' bill on local government elections. Chinese Communist Party delegation meets President Wickremesinghe. Farmers from Abilipitia take to the streets, demanding water for their cultivations. SLPP unhappy over ministries not being awarded. Tissa Kuttiyarachchi reveals how state ministries will be given. Commuters inconvenienced by train strike that lasted for several hours. 4 people dead and 3 missing in drowning accidents in 24 hours.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Now in your top story for this evening, Sri Lanka's Attorney General informed the Supreme Court that clauses in the private members' bill that was presented to make amendments to the law to empower the subject minister to recall local government institutions for a time period he desires violates the constitution.
The private members' bill in question was put forward by SLPP parliamentarian Jayantha Katagoda. An additional Solicitor General appearing for the Attorney General informed that if the bill is passed, it should be by way of a special majority in Parliament and by a public referendum.
27 petitions were filed with the Supreme Court seeking an order that the private members' bill by parliamentarian Katagoda violated the constitution. The additional Solicitor General made the announcement in court when these petitions were called up for examination on Monday. At the same time, the petitions that were filed with the Supreme Court seeking a ruling that the people's fundamental rights were violated when the local government elections were not held as planned on the 9th of March were postponed to the 26th of July for consideration. These petitions were filed by the Jatika Janabala Vegaya and the People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, or PAFREL. The petitions were to be examined in the presence of a 5-judge bench led by Justice Buwaneka Aluvihare. However, the consideration of these petitions were postponed as Justice Priyantha Jayawardena, a member of the bench, was attending a separate legal matter.
This is a matter that will be taken up in the presence of a 5-judge bench. As one member of the bench was appearing for another legal matter, our matter was postponed to the 26th. We have challenged the motion put forward by MP Jayantha Katagoda. As the same case was called up today, our matter was postponed.
In another headline-making story, Yuan Jiajun, member of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee Political Bureau and Secretary of the CPC Chongqing Municipal Committee, paid a courtesy call on President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the President's office.
During the meeting, President Wickremesinghe presented Sri Lanka's ambitious development plans with a primary focus on enhancing connectivity with the rest of Asia. Emphasizing the importance of regional cooperation, the President outlined how these plans would foster economic growth and facilitate increased trade and investment opportunities. President Wickremesinghe briefed the Chinese delegation on the commendable progress being made in the country's debt restructuring efforts. He expressed his confidence that upon successful completion of the restructure, several halted development projects would resume promptly, further bolstering the nation's economic development. The Chinese delegation appreciated the President's steadfast efforts to stabilize Sri Lanka's economy amid challenging circumstances.
Opposition political groups have called for the agreements and accords of Sri Lanka inked with India during President Ranil Wickremesinghe's visit to New Delhi be made public. Now, several quarters have drawn their attention to the MOU for economic development of projects in the Trincomalee district. The Freedom People's Congress, a faction that defected from the ruling Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, warned that entering into agreements based on the needs of individuals pushes the country into the brink of destruction.
If he had made a personal decision with regard to the development of Trincomalee and inked an agreement with India along with his ambassador, that is wrong. Such conduct, where people enter into agreements based on their limited expertise, would push the country to the brink of destruction. That is what happened to the Hambantota port. The people did not want to enter into an agreement with China. It was the Ranil Wickremesinghe government that entered into an agreement with China. As of today, a large sea area and an area of land has been taken over. Such decisions lead to international issues. Therefore, we have to offer separate assistance to India to balance these equations. We are heading to a very dangerous area.
ඒ නිසා මේක මහා භයානක තැනකට මේ ගමන් කරමින් යන්නේ.
The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, speaking in Anuradhapura, said that though he was not aware of the plan, there was no reason to oppose the plan aimed at development.
I am not aware of the plan. However, if it is a development plan, there is no reason to oppose it. The need of the hour is to move the country towards development. You might recall the East Container Terminal and the Yugadanavi power plant. A group from within our party conspired and obstructed these projects. If development does not harm the country, that is something good.
නොවන සංවර්ධනයක් නම් එය ඊටාම හොඳ දෙයක්.
The General Secretary of the United National Party said that decisions need to be made given the present state of affairs in the country.
What do we do when we fall economically? We either go to a loan shark or approach a relative, or we approach a bank for a loan. Don't we take measures to come out of that crisis? That is how we rise up from the bottom. Our country is facing a similar situation. We recognize the Indian rupee. However, that decision will be attacked, citing that we will be surrendering our currency to India. Bear in mind that many of the food imports come from India. So, what would happen if we kept on paying in US dollars for those imports? What would happen if we decided to pay them in rupees? We will be able to import from India and pay with rupees, and there will be no shortage of goods in the market. The burden on the people will ease and our dollar reserves will remain. Is this not what we want?
The Inter-University Students' Federation also commented on the matter.
The population in some Indian provinces is far greater than Sri Lanka. So, by setting up a petroleum pipeline between India and Sri Lanka, they are not looking at business ventures alone. Sri Lanka's energy authority lies with China, Australia and the United States of America. Sinopec was also given rights. India is now being allowed to meddle with Sri Lanka's internal politics. That will allow them to make Sri Lanka an Indian colony. Ranil Wickremesinghe is paving the way for India to use Sri Lanka in order to rise up in world politics. The country's issues have not been resolved. There is no program to solve the issues. The government says that the only solution is the IMF.
The Pivithuru Helurume wants all agreements tabled in Parliament.
The President, in his policy statement, pledged to the Parliament that all bilateral agreements would be tabled in the House. After the agreements are tabled, we will comment on them. India is our neighbour and we need their support. However, the country needs to be made aware of the contents of these agreements.
The Samagi Jana Balawege pointed out that agreements are being tabled in Parliament after they are signed. The Samagi Jana Balawege said the power over public finances lies with the Parliament.
The Parliament was not informed about the IMF agreement. However, the President's cabinet was aware of it. The Parliament is still in the dark about what the loan is for and how it will be used. However, amendments have also been introduced. So, we are supposed to cry after everything is completed. Power over public finance lies with the Parliament. Therefore, agreements need to be presented to the Parliament. Before that is done, they meet with the businessmen and enter into deals. The Parliament is kept in the dark. I do not understand how a country can be developed by selling off assets and obtaining loans.
The Jatika Jana Balawege said the country is heading to a very dangerous position.
Ranil Wickremesinghe is to award the wind power project in Mannar to Adani. Adani enters Sri Lanka after shaking hands with Ranil Wickremesinghe. Adani would generate wind power and sell it to us in rupees. Their profits will be converted to US dollars and taken away. Be it wind power and fuel power, the dollars will be taken away. That is Ranil Wickremesinghe's plan. Sri Lanka does not need rupee investments. It needs dollar investments. Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to sell everything. Ranil Wickremesinghe is pushing this country to a very dangerous place.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna expressed its displeasure over the fact that senior members of the party were not given ministries. This was revealed by SLPP parliamentarians when they spoke to the media following a meeting convened by the SLPP's national organizer Basil Rajapaksa.
A group of senior Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna parliamentarians met with national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Basil Rajapaksa at the party headquarters in Battaramulla on Monday. Following the meeting, parliamentarian SB Disanayaka spoke to the media regarding the matter.
As the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, we requested that our senior party members be allocated certain responsibilities. That was not done. As much as we are unhappy about this and express our displeasure in this regard, our stance is that we should support the government and the plan it is carrying out now. At the upcoming elections, we will be contesting as the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. We are not afraid. There was a time we would not enter villages. The situation is different now. Today, our members can visit villages freely.
Parliamentarian Thissakutti Arachi, addressing the Mahara Balamandala meeting, claimed that one could become a state minister if they say that Ranil Wickremesinghe would be the next president as well.
Now people in the government must be wondering how they can become a state minister. All they have to do is say that Ranil Wickremesinghe will be the next president of Sri Lanka. Therefore, the next presidential candidate should not be chosen by votes, but by the SLPP, which is led by Basil Rajapaksa.
SLPP MP Namal Rajapaksa commented on the presidential pardon given to a person who was sentenced to 200 years imprisonment over the 1996 Central Bank bombing.
The president had granted a presidential pardon to former LTT members. A pardon was given to the prisoner who was imprisoned for 200 years over the central bank bombing that claimed the lives of 91 civilians and injured over 200 civilians. I was also in jail with many of those suspects. When I was in remand custody, many of these suspects were there with me at the Magazine Remand prison. So it doesn't matter if the presidential pardons are granted gradually or those who have been in prison for more than 15 to 20 years are released. On the other hand, even war heroes have also been found guilty of certain charges. I believe that the president should be granting presidential pardons to them as well. Presidential pardons need to be given to these people as well because that chapter must be closed now. If we close that chapter, we cannot close it by limiting it only to LTTE cadres.
Parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa commented on the no-confidence motion against Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwella.
We have not discussed this, but we are aware of the no-confidence motion. I believe the decision we need to take is to focus on the health sector. If not, we will witness allegations every day. We will not be able to solve the issues if we keep blaming the ministers. The data at the NMRA was destroyed. The parliament is not aware of the progress of the investigations. There were issues during the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration as well. Therefore, the people will not be served justice by plaster solutions, and we need to provide sustainable solutions. We need to make radical decisions, and everyone must come together.
While Sri Lanka's political sphere is more focused on agreements, ministries and no-confidence motions, have the people's issues been solved? Farmers from Abilipitia took to the streets to demand water for cultivation of the season.
Many agrarian communities rallied at the Abilipitia town, stressing that the farming community is at risk and demanded the immediate provision of water necessary for cultivations of this season. The protest, which commenced opposite the Abilipitia Kavantisaraja Mahaviharya, marched up to the main bus halt. The agrarian communities claimed that the water supply for cultivations was reduced, citing the necessity to generate electricity.
There is water in the Samanala. However, officials are not taking any steps to divert any water to the Udabalava reservoir and help the people. If the farmers cannot be provided with the water they need, officials should stop providing water before we start cultivations. If they cut short the water supply after we pawn all our possessions and jewelry, what can we do then?
The protesters commenced a satyagraha in the Ambilipitia town, demanding the immediate supply of water. News First inquired from the General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Rohan Senemiratne, in this regard. He stated that since the volume of water in the Samanalavavu reservoir has decreased significantly and water is being supplied to the southern province to generate electricity, a water capacity of 1,400 acre-feet is being released into the Udavalava reservoir daily. However, the Mahawali authority said that in order to release sufficient water to the farmers, a water capacity of at least 2,000 acre-feet per day should be released to Udavalava reservoir. Every year, the farmers of areas under the Ambilipitia Mahawali authority face this crisis, and the farmers are in dismay as the issue has not been solved for years.
The people of Nabadavav Horopatana are another community battered by the absence of robust policy decisions. A tusker encroached on the Nabadavav village on Sunday, causing severe damage. A 40-year-old woman died after being attacked by the tusker.
She came running and the elephant was in the other corner. The elephant charged at her. We didn't see beyond that point. We came from around to avoid the elephant. We found her lying on the floor. There was a cloth piled up. When I kicked it, it felt like a piece of wood. It was a leg covered in leaves. When I moved the leaves, the body could not be recognized.
When S.M. Chandrasena was the Minister of Wildlife, a wild elephant rescue centre was built in Horopatana with the aim of taking care of the wild elephants captured in different parts of the country. People of Nabadavav say those wild elephants encroach on the village in search of food.
There is no use of telling the wildlife department. They are also afraid. If it is not resolved soon, it will lead to a massive disaster. It is difficult to see where they are coming from. The government released them to the village like it is an elephant orphanage. There is no protective fence around the Kantale Reserve, Arnolondava Reserve and Bird Park. Elephants encroach on the village.
Passengers commuting on trains were severely inconvenienced today due to a few hours of trade union action by the electric power station employees.
This is the situation seen at the Fort Railway Station this evening. The employees of electric power stations commenced a token strike last afternoon based on several issues, including cuts of overtime pay and the lack of promotions. Nearly 35 train journeys had to be cancelled due to this. This is how office employees reported for duty this morning.
The Ragama train journey was cancelled. 2 or 3 other journeys were also cancelled. I have a season ticket. Am I to go back home? I don't have enough money to take a bus back home either. They are saying that the trains will not be there on time. The train to Ragama will be leaving at 4:25. I have been waiting here since 2:30 to go to Enderamulla. You need a lot of money to travel by bus. That's why we have bought a season ticket. They are now on strike. They should have told us 2 days before they went on strike.
We come with the hope of getting to work on time. Situations like this make us very helpless.
Our cameras captured the situation at the Dembatugoda railway station this morning. The General Manager of Railways granted a discussion to the trade unions that commenced the strike, and it was called off thereafter following the discussion. However, this is how office train journeys were carried out earlier this evening.
This was the situation at several divisional secretariats across the country. These people had gathered to obtain the letter stating that they were selecting for the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program. This letter is necessary for the beneficiaries to open bank accounts to obtain the funds from the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program. Some people at the Badegama Divisional Secretariat said that they have been visiting the premises for days to obtain the letter. This was the situation at the Halyala Divisional Secretariat.
දැන් දවස් 3ක් විතර මහත්ය පොලිම ඉඳලා මේ දෙනවා කියනවා හැමදාම ඇවිල්ලා අදත් පොලිම ඉන්නවා පොලිම හිටියම කියනවා මේ කොලේ බාර දීලා ආයේ බැංකුවට යන්න කියලා. ඉතින් මහත්ය දුප්පත් මිනිස්සු හැමදාම මේ හරි අමාරුයි මහත්ය මේවා කරගන්න.
සමුද්දියත් නැහැ වැඩි හිටි දීමනාවක් නැහැ. මොකුත් නැතුව දැන් මේ අර හෙට මෙහෙට ඇවිදිනවා. ඉතින් මොනවා කරන්න මහත්ය?
News first with the people.
4 people have died and 3 others remain missing following drowning accidents that took place within 24 hours. Sri Lanka police said these incidents were reported from Navagamua, Vattala, Panadura, Negombo and Paskadua.
The bodies of 2 people who drowned by swimming in the seas off Browns Beach in Negombo were recovered on Monday. A search is underway to locate another missing person. 5 young men had visited Browns Beach in Negombo on Sunday and 3 of them were reported missing while swimming. 2 bodies were recovered following an extensive search. The victims were those employed at the Katunayake investment zone. They were residents from Jaffna, Badul and Diagam areas and were between the ages of 20 and 23. The Health Ministry said that 3 people die daily due to drowning in Sri Lanka. Dr. Samitha Siritunga, Chief Specialist at the Injury Prevention and Control Unit Directorate of Non-Communicable Disease at the Ministry of Health, revealed that a significant number of drowning fatalities occur among individuals 20 to 30 years of age.
Internationally, deaths by drowning are mostly reported among toddlers aging between 1 to 4 years. But in Sri Lanka, most of the deaths by drowning are reported among young adults in their 20s and adults older than that. When we focus on the consequences of drowning, not only deaths, there are many other issues caused due to drowning. Another medical problem that is most commonly seen is lack of oxygen in the brain. Through this, we see not only deaths, but most of the time long-term medical disabilities. There is an opinion among the people of Sri Lanka that life jackets are worn by people who cannot swim. It is completely wrong. A smart person wears a life jacket. No matter how good of a swimmer you are, if you do not know any method of life saving, then your life is in danger. So then you have to be prepared. You have to have some negative attitude that today one of us may drown. What will we do if someone drowns? You have to be prepared for any occasion. Throw anything to save a person who's drowning. It can be a wooden stick, a tree branch, a tire, a plate, a cloth, a leaf, whatever you catch, throw it without jumping into the water, because that will be 2 accidents for us. We can't lose the lives of 2 people. Someone should stay on the shore and ask for help. There is no beauty in the water as it is seen from outside. It is always dangerous.
And with that, we cross over for a short commercial break.
Stay tuned for more news.
News first. Main sponsor.
Dardens Hospital, dedicated to you. When a heart attack strikes, every minute makes the difference between life and death. With the right care and treatment at the hand of the most skilled surgeons and medical professionals. With the perfect environment for recovery. Dardens Heart Centre, dedicated to you.
Welcome back to the news. The Sri Lankan rupee depreciated against the US dollar on Monday.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that the selling rate of the US dollar was at 334 rupees and 55 cents. In the beginning of July 2023, the selling rate of the US dollar was 314 rupees. The buying rate of the US dollar was 321 rupees and 10 cents.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that a new order was issued relaxing certain limitations and suspensions imposed on outward remittances of foreign exchange.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that considering the current and expected developments in the domestic foreign exchange market and with a view to further facilitate international transactions, the Minister of Finance issued a new order relaxing certain limitations on outward remittances for capital transactions and removed the restrictions on current transfers of emigrants. The new order is effective for 6 months from 28 June 2023. Details are available on www.newsfirst.lk.
Fitch Ratings says that debt restructuring will ease pressures in Sri Lanka.
Fitch Ratings said the Sri Lankan government's debt restructuring plan is likely to reduce investment and liquidity risks for domestic insurers. Fitch expects pressure on insurers' investment and capital profiles to ease as the proposed plan will not have direct impact on the local currency government debt holdings of insurers, banks and non-banking financial institutions. Insurers' holdings of Sri Lanka development bonds, which are foreign currency dominated but governed by local law, will be affected by the debt restructuring proposal as Fitch expected. However, restructuring of the sovereign's foreign debt, including international sovereign bonds, has yet to be finalized. The Japanese foreign minister is to visit Sri Lanka in August.
Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi plans to visit 6 Asian and African countries to strengthen cooperative ties with so-called Global South nations. Hayashi said the trip will take place from the end of this month into early August and include visits to India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, South Africa, Uganda and Ethiopia, all of which are deemed to be emerging and developing nations. In economically unstable Sri Lanka, Hayashi will discuss the country's debt problems. While in India, Hayashi will meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and is expected to deliver an address at the Japan-India Forum with government officials and business leaders in attendance.
The Norwegian embassy in Colombo will be closed permanently from the 31st of July.
The Norwegian embassy in Colombo will close on the 31st of July 2023 permanently. The embassy said in a statement that from the 1st of August, the Norwegian embassy in New Delhi will be responsible for Norway's bilateral relationship with Sri Lanka and the Maldives. It further added that visa matters will be handled by the office in New Delhi and the process was in operation since 2019. In September 2022, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway said that it would make several changes to its missions abroad and 5 overseas missions will be closed down, including the Embassy of Norway in Colombo.
The Merchant Shipping Secretariat is to be located this weekend and general services will be suspended for 2 days.
The Merchant Shipping Secretariat of Sri Lanka announced that it would suspend general services on the 28th and 31st of July 2023. A statement noted that the decision to suspend general services on those 2 days is due to the relocation of the Merchant Shipping Secretariat to a new building. At present, the Merchant Shipping Secretariat operates from Kolpiti as a temporary measure and it would be relocated to Maradana. The Merchant Shipping Secretariat noted that emergency services will be entertained via email and all requests and materials can be directed to the following email addresses.
ICL Brands Private Limited received the 5S certification under the 5S certification program implemented by the National Productivity Secretariat.
As a prestigious member of the Capital Maharaja Group, ICL Brands Private Limited carries a long-standing history in bringing world-renowned consumer products for the local market. The 5S pillars is a methodology followed by workplaces to organize, develop and sustain a productive working environment. ICL Brands Private Limited was awarded the certificate certifying that ICL Brands Private Limited complies with the 5S standards by the National Productivity Secretariat under the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment. Under the certification program, the best 3 departments of ICL Brands Private Limited were selected. Quality and R&D department was awarded the best departments, while the maintenance department and finished goods stores were awarded the 2nd and 3rd places respectively. Compliance with the 5S standards improves efficiency and effectiveness of the employees, ensuring safety within the workplace, and improves the quality of manufacturing as well.
The Sri Israeli parliament passed a law that limits the Supreme Court's ability to overturn decisions made by government ministers, completing the first stage of a wider and deeply contentious effort to curb the influence of the judiciary.
The Israeli Supreme Court is now barred from overruling the national government using the legal standard of reasonableness, a concept that judges previously used to block ministerial appointments and contest planning decisions, among other government measures. Last-minute talks to find a compromise led by the country's president failed to stop Israel's far-right government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, from pushing ahead with the vote. On Monday morning, protesters blocking a boulevard outside the parliament in Jerusalem were sprayed with water cannon and pulled off the road by police amid a cacophony of noise from drums, whistles and air horns. Local media said one protester was hurt and 6 were arrested. Other protesters surrounded a police van shouting shame at officers. The protesters, tens of thousands of whom marched some 45 miles from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem at the end of last week, are trying to thwart the passage into law of the first bill of a package of reforms.
New Zealand's Justice Minister has resigned with immediate effect after failing an alcohol breath test following a car crash.
Kiri Allen was charged with careless driving and resisting arrest. She is the 4th minister from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins' cabinet to leave since March, ahead of elections due in October. No casualties were reported from the crash, which took place in the capital Wellington on Sunday night. Following her arrest, the former minister was detained at a police station for 4 hours before being released. She is due to appear in court at a later date. Allen, whom Hipkins said had been suffering from extreme emotional distress, will remain as a member of parliament for now. New Zealand's Prime Minister said, quote, "She understood that retaining her ministerial warrant was untenable, especially for a Justice Minister to be charged with criminal offending," unquote. Kiri Allen, who was also Minister for Regional Development, Conservation and Emergency Management, had recently taken time off due to personal difficulties, only returning to work last Monday. She confirmed her separation from her partner last month and is also facing accusations of poor working relationships with staffers. In a statement on Monday, Allen said that she had returned to Parliament believing she could juggle personal challenges with her job. She said, quote, "My actions yesterday show I wasn't okay," unquote, adding that she will consider her future in politics. In New Zealand, the Transport and Immigration Minister, Michael Wood, resigned in June over his failure to disclose a possible conflict of interest in stock ownership.
Sri Lankan-born George Oligaya, one of the BBC's longest-serving and most respected journalists, has died at 67, 9 years after being diagnosed with cancer. A statement from his agent said he died peacefully today, surrounded by his family and loved ones. George Maxwell Oligaya was born in Colombo, Sri Lanka, before moving to Ghana and then England in his childhood. Oligaya was a fixture on British TV news for more than 3 decades, presenting the BBC News at 6 for the past 20 years. Before that, he was an award-winning foreign correspondent, reporting from countries ranging from Rwanda to Iraq. He was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer in 2014 and revealed in October 2022 that it had spread further.
Be the first to know about the biggest stories as they break. Subscribe to News First English News Alerts. News First, your trusted English news channel.
In sports news, Pakistan have taken a considerable lead over Sri Lanka in the second test played at the SSC in Colombo after bundling out the hosts in the opening session of day 1.
Sri Lanka won the toss and decided to bat first in Colombo. However, the decision proved costly as Abra Ahmed took a 4-wicket haul as Pakistan bundled out Sri Lanka for 166 on day 1 of the second test. Apart from Abra, Naseem Shah took 3 wickets while Shaheen Afridi scalped 1. For Sri Lanka, Dhananjay De Silva scored 57 runs while Dinesh Chandimal and Ramesh Mendy scored 34 and 27 runs respectively. Pakistan ended the first day of the second test against Sri Lanka at 145 for 2.
On 74.
The Jaffna Premier League football tournament is currently heating up as competing teams entered the race for the top 16, with 7 teams already qualifying for the round.
Jaffna Premier League football tournament is being held with the aim of selecting the best players for the national football squad. Several second round matches were held earlier today. Yesterday, 3 teams earned their place in the top 16 after 3 hotly contested matches. More matches of the second round will be held tomorrow and the day after to decide the teams who will earn qualification for the top 16 round. The quarter-finals of the tournament will be held on the 29th and 30th of July thereafter. The semi-finals will be held on the 1st and 2nd of August, with the final being held on the 6th of August at the Dorayappa Stadium in Jaffna. Shakti TV is the official media sponsor of this event.
And that's a wrap of primetime news here on TV1. For the News First team, I am Peruni Karnaratna.
And I'm Jamal Ratnayaka. Take care and good night.